Now look, I'm not exactly an expert on relationships like yours, but from my point of view, I think it would be better if you two spent some time apart for your own sake. Well, I appreciate the advice, Kingpin, but, that's actually a lot harder than you'd think for us. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Average Review. We're nearing the end of the Spider-Man review week, and also, there's a lot of hype for Venom 3: The Last Dance. So, we're taking a look at the Amazon-exclusive Marvel Legends Life Foundation 3-pack, featuring, from left to right, Poison, Venom, and Riot. Now, let's start out with the most obscure one from this set, being Poison. To be honest, I don't really know much about this character, but this is a really nice representation of her design. The hair is nicely sculpted and painted, and it's got this sort of devil tail on the back, which I like. Her face has been pretty nicely done. She's got the white eyes and mouth. And the colors are a nice mix of shades of pink and dark purple. I also like the almost fire-like spike effects that separate the different colors of this figure. Like on the torso, the arms, and the, I guess, boots. At least I guess that's what you call them. Also, I like that her torso, this spot of really light pink right here, sort of forms a heart shape. Now, remember how I mentioned I like the hair sculpt? Well, it does get in the way of articulation. She's got a disc hinge, which, because of that hair, I mean, she isn't really looking up much, but she can look down a fair amount, spin her head side to side, and get a lot of tilt, actually. Her arms can spin around and raise above 90 degrees. She's got bicep swivel and double-jointed elbows with a perfect bend. Her wrists can also spin around and hinge up or down. She's got a diaphragm joint at the torso, which means she can bend forward, bend backwards, spin around, and tilt side to side. She's got legs that can kick forward a bit above 90 degrees and get a really good split. She's got rotation at the thigh cut, double jointed knees with a really good bend, and feet that can hinge forwards, backwards, and pivot side to side. I'd also like to note that her and Riot have these clawed toes. But hey, her clawed hands are also nicely sculpted. But hey, let's go from the smallest figure in this set to the biggest, being Riot. Now, you probably know this guy from the Venom movies, and he's not too different. Granted, the movie version was a bit more blue and his eyes were smaller, but hey, the broad strokes are still there. Let's start from the top with his head, and here I have a couple problems. I don't dislike it, but something about the eyes and the way his mouth look just makes him look awkward. Like he looks kinda nervous. Even another symbiote with big eyes and a similar smile like Carnage doesn't really look, super awkward or concerned. He looks evil and maniacal, and I feel like it's because there's this point that goes up right here. But hey, doesn't mean I dislike the head. It's got a pretty neat shade of blue and also with some shadowing around the upper face. Bit of an issue though, there's some slop right here on some of his front teeth, although the eyes and the red inside the mouth have been nicely and neatly painted. Moving back though, and this figure is built off of the Monster Venom Build-A-Figure body, and it works well since it makes him look big, imposing, and bulky. You can see he's got all these veins, cracks, and also some tendrils on his back and on his arms. I'd also like to note that there's some subtle bits of dark purple around the figure, I suppose to either add some shading or as extra detail. Hard to see on camera, although it's a bit more noticeable in person. Like any good symbiote though, he's got his clawed fingernails out, and there's actually a good bit of sculpted detail in the fingernails themselves, although they aren't painted. his legs are less impressive. I mean, he kind of looks like one of those Bruce Timm Justice League Unlimited characters. You know, they're still, like, big and muscular, but, like, in comparison to his body, they're still pretty small. They've still got the cracks and veins and also dark purple detailing, which is nice, and just like Poison, he's got the clawed toes. But now let's move on to his articulation, and for a figure this big and bulky, he's got some surprisingly good range. Now, his head's on a disc hinge, which allows him to look up a really good amount, and look down a similar amount. His head gets a bit of turning side to side, and also spins around like a demon. His arms can raise about 90 degrees, and of course, spin around. He's got bicep swivel, and single jointed elbows with a 45-degree bend. But of course, his hands spin around, and hinge up and down. Now, he's got nab crunch, which lets him hunch forward this far, and hunch backwards this far. He's also got a cut at the waist, which allows him to spin around. He's got legs that can kick forward a bit under 90 degrees, but they get a fantastic split. He's also got thigh cut, double jointed knees, and unlike all the other figures in this set, he's got boot cut rotation and feet that can hinge backwards, forwards, and pivot side to side. But come on, the reason most people bought this set was for the main man, Venom. And he's absolutely my favorite, and also plenty of other people's favorites from the set. Let's start out with the head. This is the one he came packaged with in box, and it's a fantastic effect of the symbiote taking over Eddie Brock's face. Speaking of Eddie Brock's face, that has been nicely detailed. He's got the classic Todd McFarlane blonde haircut and black eyebrows, but also with an incredibly angry expression and bloodshot eyes. This is probably my favorite Eddie Brock head sculpt ever made, even without the cool symbiote effect. But hey, we gotta talk about that symbiote effect. And it has been sculpted beautifully. You see some parts wrapping around Eddie Brock's head, and also, along with the tendrils on the sides of his torso, it creates a really dynamic effect. It's also been painted very well. It's got those shiny, pearlescent eyes that Riot had, but also better painted gums and teeth. I mean, look at that. That is clean. I also like the detail that the other side of his teeth are on this side of the tongue. That's really nice. But hey, let's talk about that body. And it's based on the Omega Red figure, which makes it bigger than your average Marvel Legends, but not quite Hulk-sized. And hey, the musculature is smooth and well sculpted, which fits really well with Venom's minimalistic design. Speaking of Venom's design, we gotta talk about the logo. This is actually only painted on, but there's some effects that make it look sculpted in when you have it. And hey, it even shows up on camera too. It's a nice shiny white, and it goes all the way to the other side. If I had one complaint about this logo though, it seems a bit thin on the back. Although, hey, at least it doesn't run into the same issue as Renew Your Vows Spider-Man, where when you move the back logo on the butterfly joints, it kinda breaks up the paint job. He's got some great beefy arms, also with some nice symbiote detailing on the forearms, and the white rectangle on his fist. Also, that clawed hand is really nicely done. I mean, look at that. That's monstrous. Riot may have skipped leg day, but Venom didn't. I mean, good God, look at his calves. I'd also like to mention that unlike the other figures in this set and more modern versions of Venom, this guy doesn't have the sculpted-in toes. Instead, he has the more Spider-Man-like sock feet things. Not a complaint, just something I noticed and found interesting, and overall, I prefer this for Venom. Oh yeah, here's a better look at Venom's back in case you were interested. But hey, Venom might just be the most articulated figure in this set. Sure, some figures have better range in certain areas, but Venom is the overall titan here. He's got a disc hinge which lets him look up, look down, and spin his head side to side. He's got arms that can lift up a bit under 90 degrees but still spin around, and also butterfly joints which let his arm move forward and backwards. And I mean, seriously, look at the range of that. He's got bicep swivel and double jointed elbows with a pretty good bend, along with hands that spin around and hinge up and down. He's got an ab crunch, which lets him hunch forward like so, and hunch back. Waist cut, which lets him spin around. And ball jointed hips, which let him kick forward about 90 degrees and get a pretty good split. He's got a thigh cut, double jointed elbows, and feet that can hinge backwards, forwards, and pivot side to side. Now, although each of them have a different range, I feel like they all have some really great sculpting, paintwork, and articulation. But let's also talk about some of their accessories. Unfortunately, Poison got nothing. 0 accessories, zilch. I mean, maybe they could have at least given her some fists, but hey, still a nice figure. Now, Riot only got 1 accessory, but it might be the best one in this whole set. This huge scythe that you can swap out one of his hands for. I mean, look at this thing. It's massive and well sculpted, too. Doesn't actually have any articulation, but hey, it's an awesome symbiote accessory, and I think we could do for a lot more of those in Marvel Legends. Venom got 3 accessories. I have him here displayed with 1 claw and a fist, but he comes with another claw and another fist. But also, this standard Venom head, which I of course display him with since, well, it's normal Venom. He's got this massive tongue that nearly goes around his whole head, the nice same pearlescent eyes, some pretty well painted teeth and mouth. I mean, this is nothing more than just a great Venom head. But hey, let's get some size comparisons in here, and sorry to the other Life Foundation members, but this is going to be pretty Venom focused. Starting off with Renew Your Vows, Spider-Man and Spinner-Rat, and oh boy, I like how this Spider-Man and Venom work together. I have no clue how to explain it, but they just work. Poison and Spinner-Rat have the same body mold, so they're about the same size. And of course, Riot's massive. Let's bring out some younger Spideys too, with the Ultimate Spider-Man from the Vulture 2-pack on the left, and the Amazing Fantasy First Appearance Spider-Man on the right. If any customizers are watching this, I'm just saying, this Riot would be a pretty good base for Ultimate Venom. Just give him a bit of purple paint. So if you're wondering how that would end up, well, yeah. Here's the Ultimate Spidey. Let's also bring out Venom just for comparison's sake, even though Ultimate Venom doesn't look like this or is built like this, and of course, Spider-Man didn't fight Venom in the 1960s when Steve Ditko was drawing the book. Oh yeah, and here's Poison. I like how she clashes with Spider-Man's color palette. Also, here's the No Way Home Final Swing Spider-Man next to Venom from this 3-pack. Also, here's Poison and Riot, still just kind of tagging along. Let's also bring out the classic Mac Gargan Scorpion, since he was actually Venom for a little while. Although the Monster Venom Build-A-Fig that shares a body with this Riot is actually more similar to the Mac Gargan Venom design. Although, let's get some other symbiotes in here, starting off with the Venom symbiote's offspring, Carnage. Ain't it kind of funny that Carnage's color scheme actually matches the backdrop? Here's Carnage with Riot and Poison. But for the offspring of the Carnage symbiote, let's bring out Toxin. This is on that same Monster Venom body mold, but look at that back piece with all those tentacles. With the Venus flytrap-like mouths, I mean, it's fantastic. This might be one of the best symbiote figures ever made. Next to Riot, you can really see how much of a present all those tendrils make. But I only have one other symbiote from the Life Foundation 5, and that is Phage. He kinda just looks like a yellow Carnage, but there's plenty of differences, including the 3 spikes on each of his arms and each of his boots. Here's Venom with Phage, and the whole symbiote family. Also, here's Riot with the Kingpin. Why? Because the head and hands are actually compatible and can be swapped. This is an interesting look. I don't know why, but it kind of reminds me of Mr. Waternoose from Monsters Inc. This swap is something. Yeah, it's definitely something. I actually really like how the Toxin head and hands look on this body. Is this anything like something from the comics? Not to my knowledge, no, but hey, it looks cool, and that's all that matters to me. But hey, let's bring out Hitmonkey and Goliath for Poison, Riot, and Venom. Now, we've got one last thing to talk about before the rating, and that's the price. 3-packs are always pricey, and this one was no different, being around $78 at retail. I'll let you be the judge of that if you think it's worth it or not, but that's not the price it's at now, since it's practically impossible to find this thing at retail, going for upwards of $100 on eBay. Oh yeah, I'd also like to mention, I've been getting her name wrong the entire time. It's not Poison, it's Agony. I've got mostly air up here, alright? Sorry. Although Agony has probably the most intricate paint job out of all these figures, she isn't really much. She's got no accessories, and she's just on a fairly standard body. Still a good head though, and like I said, great paint job, but that isn't really going to save her from a 7 out of 10. Riot fares a bit better due to being, well, giant and bulky along with that good articulation, and his amazing scythe accessory. But I'm docking a couple points just because of that face. He doesn't look super menacing. Overall, 8 out of 10, still a really decent figure. But hey, let's end things with some positivity. Venom is probably one of the best Venom figures ever made. And I think Hasbro agreed, since they recently released a Walmart exclusive re-release of this Venom, except with a different head and a slightly different articulation scheme for the torso. Now, since this is a good figure, I feel like it's okay to be a bit nitpicky. The pin joints aren't a problem, but still, it'd be preferable if they were pinless, and also, it would have been preferable if this guy had boot cut articulation like Riot, but that's more a fault within the Omega Red body mold, and still, this is gonna be my perfect Venom for, well, a really long time. So I'm giving him a 9 out of 10. To everyone watching, remember to have a great day, 'cause you deserve it.